Another icon of evolution that attempts to show the way that natural selection could give you multiple species is this concept of the finch beaks on the Galapagos Islands. These are sometimes called Darwin's finches, even though he himself didn't realize the significance of what he is studying. Actually, a different scientist, a couple of scientists actually, the Grants, have gone down to Galapagos and studied these finches extensively. So what they've done is looked at different finch beaks and used that information to classify the birds into different species. Now, the birds are all very similar in some ways, but the differences on their beaks are enough to put them in different categories. What they've then gone on to show is that when the food is rare in one year, maybe due to a drought or something, the birds that have beaks that eat that kind of food, they tend to die. They don't do as well. The birds that are adapted to eating that food will then thrive and have more offspring. Now, what happens is as the years go by, there's some years that are good, some years that are bad, and the concept is that the birds, as they have reacted to their environment, have basically, you get certain lineages or families of birds that have different features, and that would be the quote-unquote new species. Now, the reason they think this can happen here is because the Galapagos is an island, as I said, so it's a volcanic island. So they know that originally it didn't have anything on it. Once the volcanoes made it, it's too hot, there's nothing on it. But then things would come over from the mainland, land on the island, and start to live and grow. So the birds would have originally been like a one kind of finch, and then as they lived and died and had children, etc., they would maybe develop into these different lineages of birds. Now this is all very interesting, but it doesn't really show how birds can turn into something that's not a bird. These finches were actually all even still finches. They didn't even turn into cardinals or blue jays or robins. They stayed as finches. Their beaks changed size, maybe even shape, but overall they remained mostly the same. And in fact, the populations will shift back and forth, and they don't end up going into some brand new thing. You don't get the birds turning into elephants. There's not a directional change. It seems to go back and forth. It does show a little bit of how a population will respond to its environment. And in that sense, we can call it natural selection. But it's not leading to a brand new feature. The birds are not suddenly developing teeth. They all still have beaks. They all still have wings. So what we're doing is seeing changes in features, but we are not getting new features. And the only reason we can call these a new species is because they tend not to interbreed with each other. And in fact, many people would just call them the same species anyway, just because they are all finches and they are all very, very similar.